It's recording, but it still says it's in a practice session.
I saw the button earlier. I'm gonna stop sharing. Maybe that's how I have to do it. Yeah, here it is. Start webinar. Let's start it with our faces. Through recording. I'm gonna go ahead and share. And now I'm also gonna live stream because I can.
There you go. So Christina normally takes care of all those things for me.
Well, she'll be here in a minute, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
she's supposed to, I think. I had told her I would drop by just in case you were not able to get like network stuff there, because I had no idea what it would be like.
Yeah, no, it was fine. Everyone was still here, which is kind of nice to turn up before 5. All right, we are live on the internet. Mariah, why don't you go over to my Facebook page since we're friends? Can you share that with like the Facebook groups and stuff?
I have to get on a different laptop, but yes.
That'd be great. Sorry, I know you have COVID.
No, that's okay.
Hello, I'm assuming that's Christina. She's still connecting audio. She can't hear me.
I'll grab it.
Going. Welcome those of us that are joining. We're going to get rolling here in just a minute. So we're going to give people a few more minutes since there's not too many folks here in person yet. So hang tight.
I'm not gonna let go of it.
Hey, Mariah, Christina's on. Just
Hello.
We're streaming, we're recording. I put it on my Facebook. Mariah's sharing it with other Facebooks. We're gonna blast this out everywhere. Why not?
nice.
And Mariah did a great job on this PowerPoint. I had a chance to go through it today. I updated your numbers on the impact slide that I figured out. We're ahead of the game a little bit.
Nice.
We'll get to that. All right, well, I'm going to mute here for a minute and
We're recording.
get this thing started in 5 minutes. We were just starting to get going here. People are still showing up. Looks like everything looks good over here. For some reason, it stopped sharing. Go ahead and pop back into presenter mode here. I want to do this.
Oh, really? It works.
Right, I got it shared over to the Solar United Neighbors of Ohio page.
Great. Welcome those of us joining online. We're going to get started at 5 p.m. Just a couple of minutes, so hang tight. We'll get things rolling. So somebody asked, what constitutes the Columbus area? And so we're all streaming online, so I'm just going to repeat the question sometimes. But so Columbus area is going to be Franklin County, Delaware County, Mariah, where else? We also have Mariah on, who's supposed to be here today, but she has COVID, which is going to be on filling me in on things. I'm cheating up here.
Yeah. So
What other areas?
Madison, Union, Pickaway, anything that touches Franklin
Madison,
County.
Union, Pickaway, Fairfield County, all the counties that touch. Yeah, it's a collaboration. Hi, Sarah, between Morpsey, Impact, and then the Sustainability Office in Columbus. So Morpsey is a bunch of counties, so we had to kind of whittle it down to a smaller area so we could, for a couple reasons, we'll get into that. So one more minute, and we'll get things started here. Columbus is so big. Everybody, you say you're from Columbus, you're actually from Columbus. If you say you're from Cleveland, you're from one of 60 cities, right? So I'm from Cleveland, I'm from Lakewood.
That was intentional. My understanding is back in the 50s and 60s, they planned on that.
Yeah.
The city of Columbus is bigger than the city of Cleveland or Cincinnati, even though their metro areas, I think, are still larger.
Yeah, very similar. And I think one of the reasons, there's many, as to why Columbus annexed so many of the neighboring communities is because they had control of the water and sewer, and basically said, if you want these services, you have to become part of Columbus. It was a pretty big lever. Cleveland just didn't do that. They didn't, or maybe they didn't have the utility at the time, or there was some issue where they just allowed cities to contract with them. So Lakewood, we receive our water through the city of Cleveland, we just pay them, our master meter city. Here, you couldn't have done that. So they were smart, I think, because it makes more sense to have more cities joining a bigger metro, spread around the tax money and make things a little bit more fair, I think. All right, we're at 5:01. We'll get things kicked off. So I think we're already recording this and we're already streaming live. So those of you online, hello and welcome. We're also doing this live here at Impact Columbus on the, is this the east side of Columbus? Is that where we are? South side. Okay, pardon me. I don't know where I am, never. So beautiful part of Columbus, Ohio. And this is the info session. We're going to go over some of the ways that we do things here at Solar United Neighbors, educate folks about solar, give them an option to go solar through the solar co-op, and also let you know a little bit about how the industry works, how solar itself works, and talk a little bit about our awesome partners like Impact Columbus and Morpsey. So a couple of housekeeping rules, mainly for those online. If you have a question, feel free to pop it in chat. And we have Christina here and Mariah. I'm actually filling in for Mariah doing this presentation, but she is at home sick. So she'll be able to pop into and answer questions. And also feel free to flag me if you want to really ask a question out loud. I'm kind of a verbal person. I don't like typing questions. Just raise your hand or put it in the chat you want to speak, and Christina or Mariah will let you know. Will allow you to be unmuted. Stop me and interrupt me, by the way, at any time. I love questions. It's kind of like I prefer the choose your own adventure style of presentation. So if you already know something, say, we already know all that. Let's move on to the next thing, because we can take this wherever you want to take it. I'll cover what we need to cover. So that's that. And we are being recorded. This is being streamed on Facebook in a couple different places. So just FYI, if you're going to speak, you will be sort of shared more broadly potentially. So hats off to our partners who make this work possible. We have Sustainable Columbus. Sarah, thank you for being here and helping head that work up at the city. Impact, you guys are phenomenal, meeting a lot of your new staff and just a great group that's helping a lot of folks have to be a part and spreading the word about solar. Simply Living, Green Energy Ohio, which is the Four Squares Environmental Council, Power Clean Future Ohio, Drive Electric Columbus. We found too with electric cars, there's a lot of overlap because EV owners like to power their vehicles on the sunshine. Why not pay for gas or energy at all? Why not let the sun do all the work for you? And vice versa. People that have solar, it's a great way to continue that momentum towards net zero lifestyles, to add an EV to your life, right? So we're seeing a lot of overlap in those two groups, and we're trying to figure out ways we can make those connections happen. But a little bit more about us as an organization. We're a 501c3, we're vendor neutral. So we do these co-ops, we work with installers and developers, solar developers, but we don't favor one over the other. And at the end of the day, the co-ops get to decide what installer is going to service the co-op. And again, we'll get into how that co-op mechanism works if you're interested in going solar. These are mainly geared towards people that want to do solar on their roofs, these sessions, or in their fields or at their businesses, things like that. So if that's you, you're in the right place. If it's not you, maybe you know somebody, you're with an organization, we'd love to talk to you too. And our whole theory here is that we want to help people go solar, help you join together. We also do a lot of advocacy work. We have a C4. We do a lot of work trying to just streamline laws in the state, the city, everywhere to help folks go solar, add solar, solar freedom, solar access, energy democracy. It's a big part of what we do. So that's the fight for your energy rights portion of our cause here. So our organization started back in 2007, and that's Anya, our executive director there in the picture, and her family. When her sons in high school saw Inconvenient Truth way back when, I think 2007, that's Al Gore's movie. They became radicalized rather quickly. Came home and said, "Mom, we have to put solar on the roof. We have to do something." She's like, "Oh, yeah, we could do that, no problem," And they live in the Mount Pleasant area of Washington, D.C. And she figured out it was very hard, very difficult to go solar in DC back in 2007 for a number of reasons. The city had a lot of barriers. There's barriers in the industry to not knowing who to go to. It seemed expensive, getting wildly different quotes from different places. I mean, it just was complicated. She spent a year and a half figuring this process out for herself. She thought, holy heck, if I'm going to be doing this for myself, I'm just going to go around in my neighborhood. I'm not just going to do this for myself. We'll do it for the whole neighborhood. So she got a meeting together in her living room. That was the first co-op. 34 people in her neighborhood went solar that year. 2008 or 9, it's about by the time they figured it out. And because it was so successful, they lobbied city council there at DC, got a better line of just ways to get permitting, better incentives for solar. And it really led to a big shift in how the city felt about solar, and a lot of solar in DC. So they ended up taking that model across the country. I think now we're in about 12 or 13 different states. Puerto Rico is our newest territory. We're finding it to be very beneficial, solar plus battery storage down there to really increase the quality of life for folks who have very unstable power in that area. So far we've helped 6,500 families, over 340 co-ops, 65 megawatts of solar. 65 megawatts is a lot of solar. It's a big amount of solar and a lot of carbon saved for folks. Here in Ohio, it's about 500-ish. We're almost there. This co-op, you could be number 500 if you join the co-op. And about 5 megawatts in state, that's pretty significant. A lot of money invested directly into the economy. I know that Empower has a great program to train folks to go solar. We're hoping to work with those folks that are going to be trained to install, make solar installations and be part of the solar installation industry. We know that these money goes straight back into the economy. So far, almost $9 million, close to a little over $9 million has gone directly back into the economy to support those jobs and those training programs. So pretty cool stuff. And yeah, a lot of money saved too. Our arguments for solar are both economic and sustainability. We want to help folks become sustainable. We know that it's also a pretty good advantage. Solar lasts for 30 years. Put it on your roof. It'll pay itself off in 10, 11, 12 years, depending on pricing, the system and all that. It's a good economic proposition as well, not bad at all. So again, our theory of change, help people go solar, join together. And then we also work with making sure we streamline net metering rules to make solar work. HOAs, we just got a bill done that helps folks in homeowners associations. Anyone here in a homeowners association? No, lucky you. Though they're great, we love homeowners associations. And we just got a law passed that makes solar a lot more accessible to folks in homeowners associations too. So important, exciting stuff. In our equity work, of course, we just launched a LMI project, low to moderate income project in Cleveland. And again, working with folks in jobs training programs is really important to us. We prioritize minority-owned, minority-run businesses. A lot of things we try to do to be a little bit more equitable and fair about how we know this transition is happening, right? We have to move towards renewable energy. I don't usually get on this tirade, but and that's happening. We have a choice right now to figure out who's going to benefit from that. So it's important we focus on equity to make sure that the most folks in the system can take advantage of that. So we want to make sure we get solar into the hands of everybody, not just a few that have so far been able to afford it. So we're working hard on those questions. So that's the intro. A couple of things. We're going to talk about the technology of solar, what it is, how it works, pretty important stuff. The economics, how it works for your budget on a macro scale and a micro scale, and the co-op, which is the mechanism by which you might go solar, right? Through the work we're doing here with the city and all these other partners. So I'll stop there for 1 second. Any questions so far on any of this? Any of the kind of like gray spots? Anything else you want to know about our organization or what we're trying to do? Anything online, anybody? I'll let you think while I look online. Oh, looks like you shared the co-op link. Great. All right, cool. So can you see this okay? Not much I can do about it. I don't know. it is what it is. If for some reason you need me to read something or something's not clear, let me know. But the type of solar we're talking about is photovoltaic solar. That's the solar of when the sun shines, it beats down on these panels. You see them behind these two gentlemen here. Those panels convert that sun energy, those photons, directly into electrical current that could be used in your home. A couple things have to happen between that point and when you can use it, but essentially we're creating electricity through sunshine. There's other types of solar, like passive solar, solar heating. We kind of stay away from that here, especially in Ohio a little bit. Technology's come a long way. We're focusing on this solar as electrical energy question. And when we talk about going solar, that's what we mean in this context, okay? The most important component of that is the solar panel or solar module, which is, you've seen them before, probably on homes. Here's an example of one. They're about 30 or 40 pounds now. They're getting lighter. They're anodized aluminum frames with 2 sheets of usually glass, maybe a metal backing. Those are, all of that encapsulates what are just basically very thin, actually pretty fragile, and why you need the rigid aluminum and rigid tempered glass, really thin wafers that are doped with a couple different chemicals that actually, when the sunlight hits them, creates a small difference in electrical current between the 2 layers of that filament. And the little wires pull that energy out, pull that difference out, and you can do power with it. So you can create power with it. So each one of those little cells, usually 60 or 72 of them, they're about that large, actually produces a couple of watts, right? Not a lot per cell, but you add those cells together, you string them together in parallel or in series, you can get up to 3, 4, 5 kilowatts, lots and lots of energy, enough energy to power your home pretty much all year round for an average home. And we'll get into kind of sizing and what kind of size system might work for most people here in just a second. But other components, here's one of your most important components. These gentlemen here happen to be gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, who actually install the solar on the roof. You want to make sure you have qualified roofing professionals that know what they're doing to do that work. You can see they're installing these solar panels on what's called a racking system or a mounting system. That's flashed to your roof. There's flashing points that are actually drilled straight into your roof. Usually they're drilled in above where the line of the shingles are. So there's a layer of shingle overlapping where the actual penetrations are. They're watertight essentially. And most, if not all at this point, solar contractors or solar installation companies offer roof penetration warranties as a standard sort of thing with what they do. All types of roof work too. There's a shake roof up top, slate steel roof. This is a standing seam steel roof. You can see too, there's an example of how the standing seam works. No penetrations there. They're just clamped onto the standing seams, and there's some I don't think it's a ballasted system. Looks like an actual a rack system, but here's a ballasted system. Ballast just means they're sitting on top of the roof, no penetrations, and weighted down with some substance like those cinder blocks there. Very common in flat roof, industrial installations, business installations, anywhere you have a flat roof. And then you can also pitch them a little bit. You see that they're pitched about 10 or 15 degrees to help catch the sunlight. And here the best direction south, right? That's where the sun's coming in most of the day, most of the time. East and west work just fine. Lastly, you can always do a ground mount. So you don't have the space in your roof. Maybe you have an old roof, a lot of different reasons, maybe shaded roof, but you have some space in your backyard or in an adjacent lot. You could always attach it to the ground and high enough. That's a good example of one where you could easily mow under it, or you could have cattle grazing under it or whatever. So solar kind of can fit within your lifestyle in most cases. Some of the other components that make this work, those panels collect direct current, right? So it's creating that continuous current. Your homes use alternating currents. You need something like an inverter to convert that energy. Here you have a string inverter, which is just a big box that goes in your basement. All that power comes off of your roof in DC and goes into your basement where that panel is, or garage, or even outside. And it converts it all to AC, right? That's the best, that's the simplest way to do it. However, nowadays there's also optimizers that go on the back of every panel, allow every panel to be controlled and monitored individually. So one of the old school problems back before we had these little optimizer doohickeys here was that a panel would go down and everything after it would have to go down, right? So, or a whole string, you'd lose a whole string of panels for one malfunction. Now with these optimizers, it allows every panel to kind of be operate independently, basically, and you can watch and monitor them independently. And then the latest technology really is the microinverter, which is changing that energy from DC to AC at the back of every panel. The microinverter either goes on every panel or every other panel, and you're not only controlling it, you're not only seeing it in real time, you're converting the energy on your roof, and there's no need for this big box anymore in your basement. I actually have a string inverter and optimizer. My system's from 2019. It's a 6 kilowatt size system, about 18, 19 panels. I think it's 18 panels. It's fine. String inverters, microinverters are basically the same thing. They work the same way. I think just the microinverter is the newer sort of technology that most folks are doing. There's other advantages to microinverters, like you could expand your system. So say today you want to do a 5 kilowatt size system, is going to cover half of your need. Maybe next year you're going to buy an electric car, maybe you're going to add more solar. You might want to do microinverters or do a string inverter that's larger than what you need. So to kind of be thinking ahead a little bit, but microinverters allow for that expandability. So I think it's the way that most folks are going these days. And you also need to make sure you have an electrical panel that has the capacity to deal with the solar you're going to install, and basically one that's up to code. We get that question a lot. Will my panel work? I'd have to look at it and see, we'd have to check. But generally speaking, 90% of panels that have the space, you look at there and you have plenty of breaker space available, and it's a modern panel, it would pass code today. Very important, because this is going to have to be inspected. It'll probably work. 100 amp, mine's 100 amp service. It works just fine. Had to figure out a way to cram in the breakers for the solar, but it's not a very complicated procedure. You don't need an extra electrical panel like you need with the generator. It all just works with your electrical panel pretty normally. So any questions on that? That's a lot of technology at you real fast. Am I doing that good of a job? That can't be true. Cannot be true. Okay, we'll keep the, yeah.
Space in my life, what's the like?
Yeah, so you need another panel, or you need to upgrade your service, or both. And I honestly don't know what that would cost anymore. Probably a lot. I mean, a couple $1,000s, $1,000. Yeah, I don't know exactly. The area we live in, trying to get an electrician to come out to do things. Now, often the solar installer will have an electrician and will be able to upcharge you for that. It may be fair. I had an electrical outlet for an electric vehicle. They were very reasonable about it. My solar installer threw that in basically for a couple $100, but that's going to be hit or miss. Sometimes they don't offer those services. Yeah.
Where the panels are best located, on the roof or on the side in the open space?
I love that question, because it leads to my next slide. You're great. You're like right on point. You're going where I'm going. I love it. So a couple things about panel placement, right? It's going to be between you and the installer. They're going to give you some advice on what might be best for you, but ultimately the decision is up to you. And they're going to look at things like which way your roof faces. You know, south here is best, east west good. Mine's actually east west facing. Works just fine. You have about 10 to 15% loss over a south facing roof at the same azimuth or the same pitch tilt. And then azimuth's actually direction, isn't it? And then north is not, you can't do north here. We're too, a latitude that's just too far north to do anything on the north side. So you need one of those three facing. You need to make sure there's not too much shade during the major parts of the year. So that's something, again, the installer is going to help you with. We even do a roof review where we look at a satellite image of your roof and get a sense for where the trees are. And we have a little software that helps us understand how much light your roof gets throughout a year. That'll give us a yes or no whether that roof's good. And we'll let you know, like, hey, your roof might not look best for solar, but we're going to pass you along to the installer. We'll do that final check. And then making sure you have the space and the age of your roof too is really important. So you need enough space to put the solar panels on so that you'd be able to do what you want to do. So that might be a restriction if you have a tiny roof or just a tiny roof facing the direction you need. And then the age, you want to make sure there's like 10 or 15 years of life left on that roof at the very, very least. You can always put solar on an older roof, not a big deal. You can put a solar on a roof you want to replace next year. You can do that. They'll do that, but they're going to have to remove it to replace your roof, which adds extra cost, right? It's all about money. It's all about, and they'll do that. There's services, you pay them another $1,000 or $1,500. They'll come out, they'll take the solar off. You'll have your roof company come out, and they come back out, and they put it back on. Not a big deal, but just know that that'll cost. So answer your question, all right?
Yeah.
And if for some reason none of these work out, and you happen to have a field next door, and they look at it, and it's only 100 feet or less from your electric box, like, yeah, we can trench that. That's going to be an extra $150 to trench it, and maybe it's the same price, maybe it's 10 cents a watt more, something like that. They could certainly work that out with you too. All right, online questions. Good question. Stop me if you need me. So a couple of terms that are very important to kind of have straight. Kilowatts is a measurement of size. I've already mentioned it a few times. Kilowatts or watts is a measurement of size. Kilowatt hours, that's how much energy you're going to be producing. That's what you get on your bills, kilowatt hours. What you pay for every month. You're much more attuned with the kilowatt hour. size, it's like a light bulb. Light bulb might be a 6-watt light bulb, or a string of Christmas lights is a 100-watt string of Christmas lights. We also size systems in kilowatts, and that's the amount of energy they might produce in any given second. So here you have a 4.2 kilowatt system, meaning that over the course of 1 hour in the sun, let's say it's noon on a nice bright sunny day, this 4.2 kilowatt system over 1 hour will produce 4.2 kilowatt hours, right? That's the math. And there's a little bit more math that goes into it, but generally speaking, this is a good point to kind of maybe share some generalities. But the normal home, so I have a very average size home in Lakewood, Ohio, 1,500 square feet. I have somewhere between 18 and 20 panels. I, for some reason, cannot remember if it's 18 or 20, but panels are usually between 300 and 400 watts. Mine's a 6 kilowatt size system. It produces 30 to 40 kilowatt hours a day during the summer, between 5 and 10 kilowatt hours a day during the winter. And it all averages out that it covers 95% of my energy over the course of a year. And we're relatively energy efficient at home. It's me, my wife, and my dog. We've done some improvements, but not really. I mean, I have a plug-in hybrid car that we always drive everywhere. So we probably use 7,000 kilowatt hours a year. And that's almost exactly 7 megawatt hours, almost exactly what that system produces for me over the course of a year. And because of net metering, is really how that's able to work. And that's what we're going to talk about here next, is net metering. So we talked about how the sun shines pretty much enough here in Ohio that this works. Hits those panels, creates that energy, it gets inverted to the type of energy your home needs, either at the panel or in your basement. Then the actual electrical panel gets that power straight from the inverter, and it powers the things in your home. But what if you're producing more energy at any given time than you're using, right? Is it going to a battery? Well, you have to buy a battery. That's separate, right? But what most people do is just sell that energy back to the grid, essentially, through a mechanism called net metering. That just says that during the day, it allows your meter to run backwards. And then at night, when there's no sun and you don't have a battery or anything, that energy is coming back from the grid into your house. So the energy is moving backwards and forwards, and the meter is moving backwards and forwards. And at the end of the month, wherever it stops, that's what you pay for. Or that's the credit you get if you produce more during that period of time than you used. If that makes any sense. Here's a good illustration of that Mariah did. Good job. I'm impressed. This is the first I've seen this. Electric used that month was 300 kilowatt hours, subtracted by the electric that she exported was 200 kilowatt hours. The amount of electricity she paid for that month would be 100 kilowatt hours. So that's the basic math. What you put on the grid minus what you use is what you're going to pay for. Does that make sense? That's the secret sauce that makes this all work. It took me a second to get my head around it when I first heard it. I'm like, I don't quite understand this whole moving backwards and forwards meter thing. But essentially, you can sell energy back to the grid, and you can buy it from the grid. At the end of the month, you have either a credit or you have a smaller bill. So for me, I have a bill from October. I may have a small bill in October, certainly November, December, January, February, but they're small, $30, $40 a month. Like September, October, they're a couple dollars. And then March, I'm back into the negative. March is a good month. Actually, solar systems produce better in the cold temperatures. So even though you don't have a lot of sun, they produce about 120% their capacity in colder weather. So April is a great month for solar. Nice and cool. And it's usually pretty, depending on the weather, it can be a very good month. Usually pretty bright out. So questions on that? Let's see what here we have under the chat. Okay, very good. So batteries, like I said, you can also do batteries. The net metering, we kind of don't put batteries in the mix to make it a little bit simpler, but you can add a battery backup to your solar. So basically, when the grid goes down, if you have a solar array and do not have batteries, you have to turn your system off. The system automatically shuts down. You can't be putting the energy back onto the grid when the grid's down. It can really mess with things. Could shock somebody trying to fix the grid, right? We have to make sure that you're not pumping energy onto the grid when it's down. But if you have a battery, that energy you're generating during the day can go into that battery, and you can be using it. So you can basically isolate from the grid when the grid's down, and you could be up. So that's a huge benefit to why people do battery backups. It helps in power outages. They're becoming more frequent. If you look at the track record the last 20 years here in the United States, our grid's aging all over the country, especially here in the Rust Belt. So more and more folks are leaning on batteries as an option to cover themselves. So they work similarly to a generator, is a good way to put it. And then with solar, you're also getting a tax credit on that battery too, which otherwise you wouldn't. So there is an incentive to do this, and we'll get to the economics in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you might want storage if you have frequent outages, critical loads, there's pumps and things you need to keep running, emergencies and disasters. It probably won't save you money, but you wouldn't think of a battery in terms of savings. It's more like a generator. It's there for an emergency. You're paying for the safety of mind. You're paying to keep the, unless you have like a lot of refrigerators or things that you need to keep running. Maybe it is an economic proposition to not waste that stuff. Generators can be around the same price. They can be less. They can be less expensive still, but batteries are becoming less expensive. They're held constant through a lot of the inflation and stuff, and we assume they'll come down once things kind of get back to a normal. And we have a lot more information if you can read that. Oh, good, that's coming through clear. SolarUnitedNeighbors.org/storage. I would write that down if you're really interested, because it's a great little booklet that goes into detail about all the things you need to think about if you want to do batteries on top of your solar, right? So to reiterate, when you're getting solar, you're not automatically getting batteries. It's something you have to think about in addition. And when we talk about economics here in a second, we will not be including batteries in that discussion because there's a lot of options in the batteries. It's a whole other discussion, basically. So, and yes.
Doesn't this understanding say if the grid goes down, that's something for neighborhood?
Hmm.
The grid,
Yes,
that
yes.
even though you have solar, you won't have any electricity unless you have a backup.
Correct.
Sure.
Very important to note that. Yeah, a lot of people think you have solar. Sometimes there's people trying to sell solar, like it's going to save you from, the grid goes down, you can be up, but that's not true unless you have some type of battery backup or a generator. I mean, anything that's going to isolate you from the grid and allow you to be up. Because like if the solar is instantaneous, so when the sun's out, you're producing energy, you may be producing way more than you need, and it's going to go back out into the grid or whatever, or into a battery. The sun goes over the panels. So if you just had solar, you're trying to power your house on solar, it would be going, lights being on and off and on and off as the clouds pass over the sun. So you need something like a battery to even out those peaks.
And you say, if you get the solar power, if you get more than you use every day,
Mhm.
it goes to the grid,
Yes,
and then you get credit for it.
correct. Yeah, good. Well put. You put it better than I did. I need your communication skills.
Yeah, but you know.
It's good.
Yeah, you-
I love it. Great. Another thing we focus on, I mentioned this at the beginning of the top. This looks like Mariah. This looks like your outlet, your sticker here. So we also want to make sure that folks have an option to buy an EV charger with this mix. Like, we know a lot of folks that have solar, want solar, have EVs. There are some inverters out there and some other technologies that allow you to move energy between your battery of your car and your home, right, back and forth. So there are some options, and we try to build as many of those options that are available into the co-op. We ask the installers if they offer electric charging options, car charging options, and we want to make sure those are available to folks. And even above that, you can join the co-op specifically just to get the EV charger component of it. Say you already have solar, you want to upgrade to an EV, an inverter that is able to be bi-directional or be able to charge cars. That's something that we're trying to get more folks to join the co-op just to do the EV portion of it too. So that's an option. You don't have to go solar to get an EV charger installed. So that's there for you. So something we want to, and it's an optional thing. You don't have to get an EV charger if you want to get solar, but more and more people are doing it. We love to see it. Mariah, anything else on that? She's our EV expert. I don't want to tax you either because you're sick, but that cover everything?
I think you covered it all. The EVSE does get included in the tax credit if you purchase it with solar.
Got it. So the EVEC, so anything that has to do with the EV charging is going to be included as long as it's powered by solar, right? It has to be connected to a solar system.
Yeah, you have to be purchasing it for that solar credit. So
Got it. So that is neat, right? So if you were thinking about getting a battery, maybe getting solar, maybe not. If you get the solar, you're going to get 26% tax credit on the battery and the solar and the EV charger, right? Because it's all connected to that solar component of the code. All right, any questions on that? Yeah. Yes. I'll just move to that real quick. So yeah, in 2022, there's a federal, it's called the ITC, Federal Investment Tax Credit. And that's going to go to the end of the year. Next year, it's going to be 22%, which I should really be talking about 22%. This is probably the first real presentation that I've given where most folks that are sitting here probably even if you get scheduled today, will not probably get installed this year just based on how things are going. So you're looking at a 22% tax credit, not 26, but 22 is still pretty significant. And that money would be, it's a non-refundable tax credit, so you have to have some kind of tax liability. So say you pay $2,000 in taxes next year, it would remove, you just get that money back essentially. So when I went solar, it was like what, $15,000. I got close to, it was 26%. So I got what, $4,500, $4,800 back because I had a tax burden. That was just enough. So I got just about every penny I paid that year in taxes back. You could take it over multiple years though. It's a one-time tax credit. It could be spread out over up to 5 years, I think. And anything beyond that, you might want to talk to your tax professional because there's a couple more things. Like again, if you have Social Security incomes, other incomes that are not taxed, or for some reason you've already zeroed out your tax burden liability for that year. This is why nonprofits, it's difficult. They don't pay taxes. It's hard to take advantage of this tax credit. So that's that. Answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Good. So solar has become less expensive, in a dramatic way since the 70s, but even over the last few years, we're seeing a slight uptick with the price of solar. Talk about batteries holding pretty constant, which is nice. Solar's gone up a little bit, just mostly because of labor costs, I'm assuming, but we've seen prices down in the $2.40 a watt. We're back up to like $2.60s, $2.70s a watt, somewhere in there for residential solar right now. That could come back down. It's kind of, I think we're on an unusual time period with inflation, and we don't know when this is going to end either, but it's certainly a lot less than it used to be. $7, $8, $9, $10, $20 a watt way back when. So it's come down exponentially. And we talked about the ITC a little bit, but the co-ops are running a little bit below market. Here in Ohio, our market rate is somewhere around $3.10, $3.20 a watt. Ours are running around $2.50 per watt on average. Again, probably a little bit more right now. And you can see most of that comes in soft costs. And that's kind of how the co-ops are able to work efficiently. We're reducing a lot of the soft costs. We're bringing folks very educated, very hot leads that they don't really pay for, not up front. So installers tend to be able to give us their bottom dollar, or give the co-op the bottom dollar for that work. So yeah, I don't really know what's causing solar to go up a little, but I have to assume it's labor costs, maybe the supply chain issues too, and sourcing different things would be my guess. But it has not gone up a lot, but it has gone up a little bit. And then this is a great page. This is actually on every sheet you have there. Should be pretty close. Those were printed last year. It might be slightly off, but it's the exact same principle. This is the pricing examples. So here, a good one to look at is 8 kilowatt hours. It's a little bit larger than the average size. In fact, what's the size in the pamphlet I gave you? Is it 7 or 8 in the middle?
7.
Yeah, that's I picked that on purpose for this because that's the state average size system. So your paper there's going to be a little more accurate to where the average size system is here in Ohio. But an 8 kilowatt size system, I'm going to say 8, is $20,000 out the door with a 26% tax credit. That brings it down to about $15,000 per year. And then over the course of a year, you're going to see in an 8 kilowatt size system about $1,200 savings. I think a 7 kilowatts is close to $1,000, right? So what that says there, $1,000 in savings per year. Over the course of 10, 15 years, of course, the energy costs are going to go up, inflation and everything else. You're going to have a break-even point around that 10, 11 year mark, maybe 11 and a half year mark at this stage for recouping your loss there, recouping the money you spent on the system after that tax incentives included. So that means that your overall net sort of profit and energy savings over the course of the system, assuming a 25-year kind of conservative lifespan of that system, is about $21,000. Big question that comes up at this stage is like, well, what if I'm selling my house in the next 5 years? Well, there's a lot of studies that we've looked at that solar added to your home will essentially add that much value to your home. So if you spend $15,000, it should add $15,000 of value to your home overall in a regular type market situation or on average. Important part to note in that, the asterisk is you got to make sure the folks know. So make sure you have your utility bill, make sure your realtor knows, especially if you're in a trendy neighborhood like Lakewood or somewhere or anywhere really, to be able to show that off and show a realtor. I think it does add some marketability to your home. Whereas maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it was maybe considered ugly or considered this thing that's going to break, I have to take care of. Now I think it's definitely in that positive. In fact, the research is showing it's in a positive way. It's going to add value to your home. Yeah, any questions on the economics, this kind of microeconomic piece of it here?
So, I mean, but it have to be, it could be none but a flood back. So it's home.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great way to, I think so. I agree.
They have to take care of it.
Yes, yes. I mean, again, back when, probably not, right? Because this is what's this big thing on my roof? I don't understand it. Like but if you look at the bill, it's like you're selling your home that's going to produce its own electricity for the rest of its, the next 20, 30 years. It's a huge, yeah, it's a huge positive to have your home generating $1,000 worth of electricity every year. I mean,
But I'm just saying,
yeah.
on the news today, found both sides of the aisle already to admit there is a climate change thing. You know, before there never was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I mean, you could pay them, people say it anyway,
No,
they do. They
right.
do.
right,
Because that means they have to spend the money to afford.
right.
They ain't consider that. What I heard on the news, they right, yeah, this is gonna be a big thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody, houses and stuff is catching on fire.
Yeah.
Too much water.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and if we're not gonna have any more parks or anything.
Right.
Boards,
I think climate change is starting to affect, once it starts to affect people's bottom lines. And then finally, some of the, but you're right, like solar can only really be a positive, and industry gets it, even the utilities get it. They're doing these giant solar fields wherever they can. Same with wind. I mean, all these big companies are buying up land to do solar and wind, and it's profitable for them.
But in the same about it, I can get all these bars and stuff, and this year, the summer here, that was, still wanted to ignore it,
Yeah.
Because we could have been at the train.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
these people that run this state here, you think they own the coal industry or
Yeah.
they big gas,
Yeah.
I trained.
Yeah.
I was in Europe for 2.5 years in the city. You get on the train,
Uh-huh.
you go to work, or you can go down the street, I can see your friend on the train.
Yeah.
Get there safely too, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they have all these accidents and people get killed every holiday, right here.
I know. I wish we would get our acts together on. I mean, in Lakewood, even the 1900s, 1920, 1930, there's better public transit. You could hop on a trolley, get from my city to downtown. Now, where are they? You got to get in a car. Going backwards.
The kid, the train station. I went, maybe in 1954, when the West Virginia was on mother. And when the convention center is downtown, that used to be the train station. Right?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
you can't- I just can't believe.
Yeah.
That.
That's all right. Well, thank you. No, we needed a break.
Just get on the train.
Yeah, we've gone a different direction, and it's not in my opinion a great direction. But we're trying to get back on track here. I think. And yeah, right. So some options for folks. I'd say when you're trying to pay for your system, the best way to do it is really if you can pull equity out of your home, if you have the cash or whatever. There's also the REIT program if you have farmland or associated with a farm. Home equity loans, lines of credit, installer financing. I'm going to put a big asterisk, should put a big asterisk next to this. All companies will offer their own financing. Some are good, some are great, some are really bad. Make sure you read the fine print. Just do your due diligence like you're buying a car. Just don't, make sure you know what you're paying for. Make sure you get them to disclose what the financing fees and charges are, and that dollars per watt. If you're going to go out there, you're going to get more quotes. You can join the co-op. We encourage you to get more quotes for things, more proposals. Make sure that you are looking at those dollars per watt and making sure the numbers all sort of match when it comes to the finance piece of it. We partner with the Clean Energy Credit Union, which actually a lot of installers are starting to partner with them as well. If for some reason you don't like the installer financing options, some of the other options aren't working out, you can reach back out to us. We'll make sure you be connected to the Clean Energy Credit Union. They just offer some of the better rates and products financially. They're an actual credit union. This is what they specialize in, is doing weatherization, different things around solar generation, heat pumps, things like that. So we have a partnership. We can connect you with them. At least they can get you some idea of what kind of rates you could qualify for. Probably going to be better rates than a lot of the other boutique solar for-profit finance companies out there. So Ecolink here in the state of Ohio, if you can qualify for a home equity type loan, you can also apply for what's called Ecolink, which is a subsidy done through the Ohio State Treasurer's Office that will actually purchase some of those points, essentially buy down your. So if you qualify for, let's say, a 5% HELOC loan, home equity loan, they'll purchase up to 3% of that. So it could be like effectively a 2% HELOC loan, or even less. Back when rates were really low, we were getting rates pretty dang close to zero through Ecolink. But now it's up to 5%, so you can still get like a 2.5%, 3% loan if you use Ecolink. Fortunately, here in Franklin County, I don't think you have products like Hamilton or Cuyahoga. They have similar subsidized interest rate type home equity loans. So that's what we know of that's available directly. Any questions on that? Yes. No, not that I know of. I mean, yeah, I wish, I wish I would set one up if I could. Yeah, we're trying some things. We're doing the Lmi Pilot Program in Cleveland, where income qualified people can get a grant essentially to go solar, but those monies are hard to come by, and they're usually privately funded or private foundations that fund that work. But that's what's available right now here that we know of. So yeah. So I would, if I were you, if you're really thinking about how to finance this and have a lot of questions, Google Clean Energy Credit Union. It might even be on that sheet. I think there might be a bar on the side if I'm I don't know if they included it or not. But at the very least, write it down. Clean Energy Credit Union, look at their rates. They publish their rates too on their website, so you can kind of read everything about what they offer. Very transparent. I think that's a good starting point when you're looking to finance if you don't have things lined up. Again, we refinanced our home a couple of years back, 2019. That's how we did it. Got some money to do our basement too. Always a good option.
The installers you referred to,
yeah,
are they the ones that come to your home and give you an estimate on how much it's going to cost?
Correct.
Yep. But does the co-op, I mean, if you're a part of the co-op, if you use a particular installer?
Great question. I love you guys. You're just hitting on all cylinders. I'm right there. So let's talk about the co-op, how it works. So basically, what we do is we bring together a bunch of folks like you all get together and say, we want to go solar together. And because you all have that demand, we take that, we kind of aggregate the demand, and we go out to bid. We actually send a proposal. Make sure we just did this. We send an RFP out to folks and say, hey, we already have 100 people interested in going solar. Some of you already joined, maybe. If you haven't, you still can for a couple more months. And then we issue that RFP to all the installers in the area. 250 or 235 installers on our list right now in the state. They can then submit a response. There's a lot of questions we ask too, what the price is, what kind of equipment they have to offer. Basically, we want to see their best deal. We want to make sure they're insured, all that stuff, bonded. We want to know who they're hiring, how many people work, what's their schedule like, can they get them in pretty soon, what's your, all that stuff. We ask all those questions. And then we pull that together, we pull that information. Actually, I think it's August 9th, it's already scheduled. I was talking to you guys today, Christina and Mariah. We will ask you if you want to join us, and you can actually pick, you can look at all those bids yourself, and we'll kind of walk through them, what it all means. You can pick the installer. Now, you're only going to be able to pick one, so the whole group's got to decide and vote on that one installer that's going to service the whole group. It's a great way to get a good discount because, again, they're giving you about $1 because they know it's going to be a lot of good work. And you also get to be a part of that process. It's democratic. So that's how we go about working with them. And that way, we don't have to have our thumb on the scale either. We don't want to be the one picking an installer and kind of putting our sort of name or brand on any one group. We want you to make that decision. Every co-op is a little bit different too, depending on the mix. When you join the co-op, you'll be asked 5 or 6 different questions. What's your preference? Do you want the cheapest? Do you want a local installer? Do you want an installer that's going to have only American-made products? What's important to you? We take those preferences and we show them to the selection committee, which you can join, and they can kind of select the installer that's going to match the best set of preferences. So it's worked out pretty well. Again, we've done a couple hundred of these, and most of the time it works out great. So
Reviewing proposals on August 9th.
I think so. Is that right, Mariah? August 9th? Yeah, we're
Yep. August 9th for selection committee.
There it
It's
is.
an online
is.
process, so 7 to 9 o'clock.
Online 7 or 9. Yes, it is, because we want to get this moving quick. If there's any chance at all to get anybody in this year, we want to do it. So we knew we had to sort of do things on a tight timeline. We cannot guarantee that. There's no guarantee anyone's getting in this year. Got to be very clear about that. But we're going to try our darndest to see if you can't get this process kind of expedited a little bit.
Lobbying to try to continue that tax credit.
Yeah. So we're one of the few national organizations that are literally lobbying on the extension of the ITC. We have a C4. We don't really use a C4 too much because we have so much bandwidth in our C3. Beth knows how this works. We do a lot of work, as you do, lots and lots of programs. So we have a lot of room to actually go out there and talk to our reps. So we spent some time in DC. Actually, before COVID, it was fun. We'd go occasionally and we'd all get assigned reps and be talking up the ITC extension. Us, SIA, a couple other big groups, Community Solar Association, are lobbying hard for extension, permanence, and expansion.
Okay,
So
but
we
there's
want.
There's no like bill.
Yeah, it's sitting in, Biden's even mentioned it a couple times. It's sitting in a couple of the bills that are, it was in the BBB, Build Back Better bill, which didn't fortunately go anywhere. So had that passed, we would have got a permanent ITC at 30% that also opened it up for nonprofits, and it would just be a fully funded tax credit.
Chance it could be more than.
Yeah, it used to be 30. Yeah. So, yep, that's what we're fighting for. It would have been that had BBB gone through, I think, because it was in there at one point. But it's still floating around. Every now and then we get a little word that, oh, maybe somebody's going to attack it on this bill or that bill, you know. But like everyone else, we're trying to figure out how to navigate that. And we're one of.
Today, 26 cents this year.
Yep.
22 for next year.
It's a little bit, yeah. As soon as we know anything, as soon as there's an opportunity, we see a clear path where people can engage, even, which you don't have right now. We'll, you know, yeah, good question. It's an important thing. And net metering is not going anywhere. I know that's a good question people ask too. What happens if net metering goes away? Because that would affect, you know, your bottom line on this stuff. And they tried to take it away in Florida. We fought that, stopped it. And DeSantis did not sign that bill, so they get to keep net metering in Florida, but Indiana got rid of net metering. So what about Ohio? Well, fortunately here, solar, I think you mentioned a little bit, like solar doesn't have as bad of a rap here. It's actually pretty well liked by both sides, the aisle in Ohio, for some reason. Now you get to utility scale size solar, there's different opinions. You start talking about farmland, I think it's a little bit different, but we don't see that going anywhere. There's no movement on that right now. So
But what I was referring to on the news.
Yeah.
That was up at Capitol up there.
oh,
They were-
DC.
You know, all of a sudden now they admit that, you know, that there's climate change and they want to react to it.
Yeah.
Now, I hope that wasn't joking.
No, I get it.
I hope they don't change their mind tomorrow. But
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it seem a little more promising, like you said, for the city.
Yeah, the city of Columbus is very committed to this too. We're seeing cities start to stand up in that gap. Because especially Ohio. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. So we have the first couple months of the co-op, and we're speeding this up as fast as we can. So month 2, we're trying to get it. So we're going to be doing within a month of launching. And we had such a great launch. A lot of folks we feel very comfortable with going to RFP sooner. And we're way past 30 members in the co-op too. We want to make sure that we get that process done quickly. But still, there'll be a sign-up deadline. And Mariah, when's the sign-up deadline out here?
October 15th.
October 15th. Good. You said that? You know that?
I don't think that's.
It's up here? Mariah, you're way ahead of me. Look at you. I never put that stuff in my slides.
I tried to put
yeah.
everything on there since you were filling in for me, so.
Oh, well, great. You're even here. So I feel very taken care of. So yeah, the sign deadline's coming up here very soon. I'm like, how do you know? It's on my slide. All right. The proposals will then go out at that point. So actually, as soon as you pick the installer, even before we hit the deadline, the installer is going to start working with folks. They're going to start calling the list. So basically, if you've already joined, one of the next communications you're going to get, you're probably going to get an email from us that says join the selection committee. You're going to get an email that says we've chosen an installer, and then installer will be in touch. And then you're going to get a call and an email from the installer directly saying, hey, we won the co-op. We want to work with you. If you haven't sent us your electricity bill, we need that. And then they'll start building these proposals and shooting them out. I think most people are doing in-site visits. Some don't. For COVID, they weren't doing in-person sort of site visits, but they may be doing those again. It's a mix right now, depending on who the installer is. So they'll come out to your home, they'll look at your electrical panel, look at your roof to make sure everything's going to fit and work. And then draft that proposal for you. And then you'll have 30 days basically to agree to it, or you can just collect the proposals too. And again, I highly encourage folks. Go out there, talk to other installers, get other proposals. You know, our goal here is to make sure you get the best sort of option or one option. You can compare that to other options, and we want to make sure you go solar by the end of the day. If that's where you're at. You don't have to, right? So you don't have to choose this proposal. There's no commitments at all in any of this, except that you want to receive a proposal essentially. And then once we go solar, we have a party. Everybody can get together. Everybody we ask for your pictures. We'll put pictures in a slide of all the systems, and it's actually really fun. Once you've gone through this, once you have solar, you know, there's some like camaraderie in that, right? And that kind of builds into this movement thing. Now we can talk about when we call you to say, hey, there's this bill. We need to come to Capitol Hill, talk to your representative. Come downtown, talk to your representative about solar. It's very solar focused. We're not environmentally focused, really. We want to make sure that, especially our state legislators, know that there's people that are receiving benefits from these systems, and even lobbying for good things here, like expanding tax credits and expanding credits for folks that wouldn't normally have an opportunity to go solar. So, does that make sense? The process kind of makes sense. Did I fill you in enough? What's your name, by the way?
Robert,
Robert. Is that good enough, Robert? Did that kind of make sense now?
we talk about leading up to all the time.
Well, yeah. So yeah, the selection committee, how the installer works, how the co-op works.
I mean, you sign up, you say you 30 people, right?
Once we get to 30, and right now we are over 30. So yeah, we hit that mark.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yep. So that's why we're decided to go a little bit early, and again, to try to see if we can't squeeze people in.
This is the same, like maybe buying gold in 1980.
Buying gold in 80.
or 85. No, I had a friend, he lives in Flat, he still lives in now. And he wrote me and told me to buy gold. Of course, I didn't.
Should have.
But you know, I mean, so this is like giving them about the floor.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I think, but I won't say it like that. A friend of mine bought a Bitcoin back in like 2013, 2014, just as a joke. So he unfortunately passed away, but his kids now have it. And that was he's bought it for $320. I'm like, you should buy one too. I'm like, no, I'm not, that's stupid. I'm not doing it. So anyway, this is the co-op link. If you go to solarunitedneighbors.org/Columbus is what that would be. I guess it got cut off there, but it would say Columbus, and it should be, no, it wouldn't be on that, but you'll see on the back of those forms, it's Ohio, and I'll take you there. You'll see the link to Columbus right away. You can even Google it. I think at this point, it should come up pretty easy to sign up. And if you want, I've got some sheets too. You can sign up in person here if you're something you want to get involved with to get the proposal. We'll pass that around here at the end. In fact, just want to pass that around, Sarah. It's sitting there. There should be a couple of sheets in the back. I don't know how many are there, but there should be a couple. If anybody wants to, you can to join the co-op. Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if you're not ready right now.
Yeah.
To do so, but you know you want to do it, maybe not this year, but next year. Would there be that opportunity for a co-op again?
Yeah. That's a good question, because we actually are under contract with the city that's supporting this to do 2 rounds of this back to back. So there will be a second round kicking off either late this year or early next year to try to get them. There's some really ambitious goals of 50 megawatts of rooftop solar by the end of the decade, I think 2030, pretty soon.
And I was trying to get the timing of it, and I believe that it's we'll start doing this process again, maybe the end of this year, but the next solar co-op is coming at the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
If you aren't ready just yet.
There it is. Yeah, and it'll be 2023. And we'll select a whole new installer, likely. And that's one of the fun parts. We don't have one partner we go to. We always do the selection committee. We always pick a new installer. Sometimes it's the same installer, depends on who wins. There's a lot of other things we do. You kind of mentioned, we have a program called 30 million solar homes national. This is where we've housed our fighting for ITC, but also like HUD, getting HUD to do more, doing, low income solar on more of their facilities, all the federal facilities, and working through different state departments of development to do different state type programs. So we do a lot of advocacy through our 30 million homes campaign. This is a campaign with a bunch of other organizations too that are working on this very issue. So some ambitious goals there. So if you want, go to solarunitedneighbors.org/Ohio, sign up for the co-op. Anything I'm leaving out, Mariah? And this is your presentation. I'm just filling in.
I don't think so. You've hit everything and then some.
Oh, good. All right. So if Mariah says I did a good job, I did a good job. So if you have any questions, now's a good time. I'm here. Yes.
So
prefer that, right, if you join the solar club, you're not obligated to.
Right. Very good point. Sarah mentioned, I'll say for the internet people, there's no upfront cost for you. This is funded through the city of Columbus, and we're a nonprofit, we're grant funded. The whole point is to help you get the resources you need to go solar. There's no obligation to sign up for the co-op. You're not saying by signing up for the co-op that you're going to go solar. It's just a way to get a proposal in your hands that may make sense. And you can choose to not do it this year, but still get a proposal to get a sense for how much it might cost in the future.
But
Good.
I know people had a thought about solar.
Yeah.
Before I stated it, then when they said, well, we're gonna go. I'm all for it.
Oh, good. All right.
I'm not a. You know, that the sun comes out every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so why not go with even the wind?
Yeah.
You know,
So Robert's a convert. We got Robert on board. We know we're going the right direction.
taxes in the Holland. And actually, they actually the windmills they have in Holland.
Oh, they do. I mean, Germany runs mostly on solar and wind. A couple countries do, and they're doing pretty well. Any questions for online folks? I see there's a couple people still left here. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Find out what your name was.
Tristan, you got it. You got it. I'm not Mariah. Oh, good. You're set then. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, you're ahead of the game then. You're one of those like 30% of people that do it all and do it right. So thank you. Nope. Just once. All right. Any more questions? Anybody else here on the internet? Because I'll go ahead and stop the stream. And then we'll just kind of hang out here for a little bit. So thank you, everybody online. Bye.